Let's hit the ground running here. We're back with the SPL after a hot set number 1 where Obey were able to find a big victory there. Now we'll be moving on to Sanguine versus Renegades. This could potentially have just as interesting implications, game times, all that stuff here. As Sanguine have been looking a little bit better late. They struggled a bit last week, Aggro, but they're coming in hot. What are you expecting here from this set on the back of, well, really a great one to start us off?
Yeah, I think that we've got a chance to have an equally great set here because both Sanguine and Renegades have shown some phenomenal highs and the opportunity to have some disappointing lows. And so in sets like this where it's pretty tough to say which team is really riding a better hot streak right now, both being pretty inconsistent as of late, I think that we're in for a pretty fun set.
See right where they both are. Sanguine in that 4th spot, 6 and 4. Renegades the opposite, 4 and 6, down in 6th place. But still, it is tremendously close here, especially with Obey being able to find a win here earlier on and bring things even back more towards parity. That's why all of these matches end up being so important. You heard Hindu talk about it in that first set when he was on the desk. You really want to make sure you're at least in that 6th place spot. That way you can make it into those playoffs in between the first and second phases here. That's exactly where we see Renegades right now, and that's why finding this W is so important so they can stay on that topper half or so of the league.
And it just creates more distance between them and E-United and Obey, you know, two teams that are kind of on different trajectories overall. E-United certainly slipping, Obey catapulting towards the ceiling all of a sudden in a pretty crazy manner, but it just gives you an opportunity if you're Renegades now with that E-United loss to really put a full game of difference in between you guys. And I think that'd be big for them to try and get to that 6th seed.
If I'm Renegades, man, coming into this set to find some kind of way to deal with Sanguine, I got to think that not letting Shinto play Merlin should be pretty high on the list. My man popped off last week on that pick in particular. What do you think is this crux for this Sanguine roster that you got to try and slow down if you want to beat him?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Shinto is the lead guy here for this team, but at the same time, can you ever stop him? I mean, if you take him off Merlin, he picks Raijin and he picks Poseidon or something else, or Hebo, and he does the same things to you. I almost wonder if it's just worth your time to really try and set other parts of the map behind. I think that Shinto's earned the respect of, let's not worry too much about what he's doing and try and get our lead elsewhere on the map. I still think that Netrioid has probably been the most volatile player in the SPL so far this year. I think he had maybe the hardest individual carry game we've seen out of any ADC player yet this year. That last week on that Ho Yi. And then he also has games where he's just a complete non-factor and he's taken out of the game early and gets bullied pretty effectively. So I think when I'm watching Sanguine, I look at making sure that Yarkor's not on King Arthur, and I look at making sure that we can get Netrioid on a pick where we can really bully him. It could still be Jingwei. We've seen teams do that effectively still. Rival in particular, their strategy comes to mind. Just jamming pressure in that lane and setting Netrioid behind and getting a lead on the left side of the map, I think has looked like the most convincing way to beat Sanguine.
Maybe try and slow them down before that terror in the middle lane of Shinto and Panatom, the two-pronged attack, as I mentioned earlier with the Ducky and the Sino. That same thing I think could happen here with Shinto and Panatom if you are not careful. Now, their opposition across the way here this time, that's going to be Renegades for these guys to try and deal with. And I do think that Renegades they've shown us, as you said, the highs and the lows, but I think they found some area where they could be a bit more consistent. Awesome. Jake has looked great. Lasber, for me, is in the top 3 junglers with the performance that he has had up until now. Barracuda even having a resurgence, too. I mean, I think Renegades have a ton of ways why you have to respect this roster as well.
I agree, and the big thing for Renegades, I think they're very hard to nail down in picks and bans because they do a lot of weird things. They've threatened the Aphrodite. They used that to great effectiveness pretty recently against E-United. That's a big key for them, is having that threat of that healer in the mid lane. SOT is playing all these weird things over there in the solo lane. I mean, at one point he played Morrigan, though we don't talk about that performance a whole lot. Barra has looked really consistent for me. Ven has been better as of late, and I think that is a really big key to this team becoming consistent, is getting Venenu on his better performances versus some of the lackluster ones. And Jake has been up and down, kind of as expected, but overall trending upwards. I do think that the big key, almost always Renegades games, Lasbra, as you mentioned, in his good games, looks like one of the best junglers in the league. I think that he also has games where he just becomes a complete non-factor, and there's usually not a whole lot of middle ground. Even in the games where Renegades wins, but Lasber doesn't get off to those early leads, I do feel like we lack some presence from him. And so getting early leads in that jungle, I think, is really, really critical for Renegades.
And it's tough to try and be consistent in that most important role on the map. But that's Lasber's job. This Renegades team clearly lives and dies by how strong or performance they're able to get out of him. And you mentioned Venenu. I mean, I talk about him as one of the premier role players to me in the league, but you might forget he's got that World's MVP as well. Sometimes he performs at that level aggro. And I think we have seen a little bit more of that from him lately, sort of as you mentioned, getting some redemption on that Aphrodite pick as well. So when he's in this spot, when he's playing this comfortable, it could be hard to stop this Renegades team. But the one that's helping orchestrate all this, pulling the strings, if you will, is Coach Rowe. I'm sure a fan favorite out there. We had a chance to sit down here with him and hear some of his thoughts coming into this set.
All right, guys, I'm here with Rowe, head coach of the Renegades, talking to him about their matchup against Sanguine. Now, Rowe, over the last two games, a 2-0 over E United for you guys, and then a close 3-game set up against Ghost, who happens to be the top team in the league. So a couple good performances there from you guys. Where's kind of team feeling at the moment? Are you guys happy with where you're at?
Not happy with where we're at. We're happy with last week, but I mean,
Sure.
Sitting in 7th place still. We're still one loss behind United, despite having the 4-0 over them. So it's not a comfortable place to be. I guess we can say we feel like we're a little bit on a roll, but
Right.
we can't be overconfident with how the league is right now. It's so competitive. It's insane. It's really entertaining, but it's really stressful at the
Yes.
same time. We're just trying to clinch that spot. I'd say we're not overconfident. We're optimistic, but confidently optimistic at least. We're feeling good.
Right. Yeah, it's a blast for everyone to watch, maybe except
Yeah,
for everyone who has to play in it. I imagine the stress is at an all-time high in this iteration of the SPL. Now, at the beginning of the split, I mean, there were obviously lots of improvements to be made, and maybe this to you could seem like an obvious question, but I think we as a group, a viewership group, have seen great improvements with you guys. Are you happy with the improvements that have been made from the start of the split to where you guys are now?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of it's behind the scenes in how we
Mhm.
structure our practice. Personally, it takes a long time to learn to criticize new players and learn how they talk. If a player feels
Right.
confident in a pick, they're not going to say that with the words I would normally expect them to say a lot of the time. It's always confidence in their voice, or they'll say something different than what they would say in practice. It's all these
Right.
little minuscule things that coaches have to notice. But it's taken a long time for that. I think we're finally there, where I can criticize all of my players. I can identify how they're feeling just based on how they're talking. So it makes practice go a lot smoother, and we get a lot more progress out of just 1 week, where it would take probably twice the time earlier in the split. So I'm comfortable with how it is right now. We don't want to be in 7th place. Right now, we're just so far repeating our wins and losses from the start of last split, or the start of the split instead of the second half. So we need to do better than what we are. So far, we're battling with United, and they're doing worse than what they were, but that's not good enough for us with Obey. They're
Right.
playing well right now. They're pretty far down in the ladder because of their first half, but they're always hot in our tail, really.
Now, and kind of to piggyback off of that, Sanguine, a team that you guys obviously faced earlier on, that's your matchup here today. They haven't been without their struggles either. They've lost 3 of their last 4 matchups. Do you think that that's kind of a mindset of a lot of teams starting to learn Sanguine-specific tendencies, or do you think truly the league is just so mechanically skilled close that everyone's finally starting to catch up with maybe where Sanguine was at the start?
I think it's a bit of both. But when you do look at Sanguine and you look at their gold pools and prepare for them like I have for this week, they have a lot smaller gold pools than everybody else, but that's not just because they can't play the other gods. It's just they know what they think is good, and they're going to play that over and over and over again. Those gods are really consistent gods. We saw Shinto and Merlin all the time. Some of these gods don't have hard counters. They're just consistently good. They don't fit any niche. They just fit all the time. So it's you just have to beat them at their own game if you can't hard counter or just ban out all those gods. So we're prepared to do that. Hopefully we can bring out some spicy stuff. We'll see.
Right.
To see how they adapt.
Well, the first time you guys played, it was a 2-1 over to Sanguine. Kind of predictions overhead on this set. Do you think this one could be another 3-gamer?
It could be. I mean, based on the performance of us last time we faced them, it could definitely be. I would like to 2-0 them, but I at least expect a 2-1 in our favor. I think it should have been a 2-1 in our favor last time, but we just made too many mistakes.
Yeah, so many close games here for you guys. Well, thanks for talking with me, Ro. It's absolutely going to be a blast of a matchup to watch. Thank you for your time, and best of luck.
Thank you. Enjoy the games.
Always great to get a chance to hear from Ro. There is a lot on the plate of some of those great coaches out there, and I think Ro is one of those guys that can absolutely handle it, noticing the subtle differences in his teammates and prepping for Sanguine properly. But, hey, we're all prepped here, too. Let's go ahead and get into the picks and bans and get ready here to start set number 2. Aggro is still here with me, and you heard him saying that sometimes with Sanguine, since they just play good stuff, you can't necessarily hard counter it. You either got to be ready to beat them at their own game or ban it out. Do you feel that same way about prepping for Sanguine?
I do. I think when you look at the way that they play, there's nothing tricky about it. They don't have these weird eclectic god pools or anything like that. These boys just play meta selections, and they play them really, really well. And then their teamwork is really what sets them apart. So I think in prepping for them, you can oftentimes predict, for the most part, what they're going to pick probably down to a T when prepping. But that's why you got to play. I mean, it's not, you don't win a SMITE game by guessing exactly what they're going to pick and ban. You win a SMITE game by understanding what they might pick and ban and then out-executing them based on that on the battlefield. So I'm excited to see what Ro has cooked up for his squad and what they put together as a way to try and counteract what Sanguine's going to do, which is usually fairly predictable.
Yeah, he hinted at some spicy picks potentially coming our way, so I'm going to hold him to that one. Hopefully we get a chance to see him. So far, though, pretty normal in terms of these picks and bans. You want the Emoji, the Aphrodite, the Camazotz, the Raijin out of there, but Merlin still available, one that we mentioned earlier as a priority pick for Shinto. Tons of really good picks out there, too. Renegades, you always got to worry about tier as a flex pick for them, or even the Horus, which is being hovered here as their first pick overall. Aggro, if this gets locked in, do you still think Horus is first pick overall value?
I think so. I think that maybe you can afford to wait a little bit on him. I don't think that he's quite as explosive as he was. The nerf that he took hurt him, but I think really overall it's just that people have gotten a lot more used to playing against this character, and that was his greatest strength, was that everyone was getting caught off guard by how much damage he was doing early on, and then all these crazy ultimates that caught people off guard. It doesn't take SPL players long to get adjusted to that kind of stuff, and I think that that's a major reason why he's lost a little bit of value, but certainly still worth an early pick.
Well, as you said, Ryan, Sanguine's picks remain predictable. I had to put my life savings on a Jingwei Merlin pick there, and that's exactly what ended up coming through for Sanguine. And yeah, I'm willing to risk $20, as I clearly just alluded to. Renegade's going to take the Nike this time as well, and I got to think that that's going to be heading into the jungle here for Lasbra to play. It's where Nike's done so well lately. Is that what you're expecting from this one as well?
Yeah, have to be. I mean, Solar Troll has played it solo lane and found some success with it. So if there's one team who's shown some willingness to flex this pick, it is Renegades. But with the recent trends, I feel like this has got to be Nike in the jungle here for Lasbra. And I wonder if it facilitates that early lead that I think he really relies on. That's my main question.
Sure.
Nike is really more of a late-game team fighter, mid-game monster in terms of damage output and tankiness. She kind of hits this break point later on where she can be killed all of a sudden once carries get their items online, but dives Merlin really, really well. He doesn't have a whole lot of answers to that gigantic AoE slow that lasts for an absolute eternity. So I like the idea of this Nike pick going into the jungle here for Renegades, but it can flex.
We're still waiting on what Yark, Core, and Panatom are going to be taking, perhaps the solo and jungle over there for Sanguine. Meanwhile, Renegades are still waiting on what they're going to be handing off to Veneno, and as well as their solo laner, unless they decide that give that Nike over there to him, excuse me. So far these bans, the Cerberus coming through, that might surprise people a little bit, but I think we saw Solar Troll play this Cerberus, and I think it was ban-worthy. He basically carried that game on this pick. Now, that was into a more sustained heavy comp, but a lot of those plays, I think, could work in multiple scenarios.
Agreed. I think Cerberus is going to start to see a bit of a resurgence, man, with all these healers that are on the board now that teams are playing, and people realizing just how impactful this pick can still be. I think that's the right area to look at, and look at this. I mean, if Aphrodite and Hell are both banned, and Renegades feel like they really want Sustain anyways, that their identity is going to be a team that plays these healers well, that kind of just leaves Chang'e there for you. I imagine this is going solo, and that we'll see a mid lane pick to reflect that next here, that this SOT pick will be for the Chang'e. But no, it's Wukong. So maybe, all right, here's my prediction. Nike, no, it is going to be Nike Jungle. Nike Jungle, Wukong solo, Chang'e mid is my guess. And I am a notorious, long-time hater of Chang'e mid. Can't stand it. And it's really because I just had to play against it all the time in Season 2 Xbox because no one could hit their buttons, so they just played Chang'e and hit everything that was unmissable. But it still tilts me to my core this day in 2020. It still makes me mad. I just feel like Renegades, they've got good CC, they've got good dive potential, and you really got to hit insane waxing moons to make this composition work. I just feel like they're a little bit too magic damage light. They have one magic damage source, and it's Chang'e. I don't know if that's good enough.
They're going to need to step up here. Game number 1 between Renegades and Sanguine. Let's kick this one off.
Thanks so much, Finch and Aggro. Myself and Mifflin on the call for this. And I'm going to start things off, Miff, really talking about the mid lane matchup because we've got the Chang'e pick. But Shinto, at the moment, is the highest murdering person in SMITE. 133 kills to his name. Closest person to him is Sam Fasaka with 110. 133 in a mid laner. It just kind of shows how important Sanguine play through their mid so often. And to see him go up against Venenu, who's kind of struggled a little bit here, Miff, I'm excited to see how this plays out.
Not only going against Ven, but going against Ven on this unorthodox Chang'e pick. Aggro highlighted it on the desk. He doesn't really have the huge damage potential that a lot of these mages do. And if you are the singular magical damage output on your team, you're usually going for something that's a little bit more hyper carry focused. You would expect it to be a Merlin or a Raijin or something like that. Having it be this Chang'e means that the Renegade's entire draft is contingent on that 5v5 engagement and some huge waxing moons.
Pretty short range as well, Chang'e, when you think about her abilities and the way they'll actually work and utilize in team fights. I think Sanguine would have quite a lot of escapability from that, or avoidance to an extent. You know, Naja, for the most part, going to pick and choose the moments with those sashes or throw the ring toss. And Merlin, too, going to sit pretty deep back. We'll see what Venenu can make happen here as we tune in so far. Bit of an invasion attempt coming out from Renegades early on. Just going to try and whittle that down, but Rongyu still has that purple buff to his name for the moment. How do you feel about the compositions here, Miff? Do you feel like anyone's got a real edge looking at how picks and bans went?
I'm going to have to give the edge to Sanguine. They have a standard comp here. They've got every piece that they need. They've got a bunch of engage potential inside of this Jingxian and the Naja. Ama's got dive potential. They've got all the damage that they should need out of Shinto and Netrioid. And when you take a peek at Renegade's comp, they're very CC heavy, but it's a majority single target CC. We see Jake's got the stun knock-up. SOT's got either a knock-up or a stun if he so chooses. Lazra's going to have a knock-up, and that's just about it outside of Ven's ultimate, which is going to have to be pretty huge and impactful. He's looking for multi-targets in these team fights because it's going to be the highest source of magical damage that this squad has.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit as well about Netroid here, playing the Jingwei this game. He picked it very early on, and a lot of people were talking about like he was a Jingwei one-trick at one point, at least chat was saying that for a while, but then he brought out the Hou Yi the last couple of weeks and really put on some great performances. But now going back to the Jingwei again, do you think that's a bit of a takeaway from Barra, maybe the reason he's done that? Or is it like, we can't say matchup specific because he drafted it so early, right?
I really think it is just that Netroid really likes how this character plays. It affords you a certain degree of safety. We see that Sanguine very often will leave that hunter on an island so they can shift their focus towards the other sides of the map. What better god to leave it on an island than Jingwei? If she does fall behind or takes too much poke, she can just fly back in the lane. CC immunity and ultimate means that even gank's going to be hard to come by once Netroid gets his ultimate online. I like the pickup. Taking it away from Barracuda is nice. He is known to play that god as well. His fallback naturally is going to be the Hachiman, which is coming through this game, and it brings a lot of the same. It means that he's also going to have CC immunity. He's also going to be able to escape any sort of poor engagement. Renegades and Sanguine, with these drafts, tell me they're looking at 3v3 in mid, or they're just going to wait it out and try and get this team fight phase rolling as soon as possible.
How about a 3v3 around Sanguine's purple buff? That's what Renegades seem to be gearing up for a second, but the pressure around of seeing Paniton rotate over here seems to have been relinquished. Sanguine pick up that purple uncontested this time round. And I do want to turn our attention to Lasbra on this Nike next, because really, what I know of Lasbra is much more of the assassin player, much more of the aggressive, you know, go in, pick up a couple of kills. He's the highest killer on the side of Renegades. Does Nike scream that way to you? Is she an assassin style play now, or does she bring something different?
She brings a little bit of a difference maker in that she can be an or shield to make sure that she is tanky without having to dedicate items towards actual defense. But as far as assassin playstyle goes, it's a little bit lacking in that front. Nike's looking to be one of the first people into the fight, playing around her team. Lazar's really going to be reliant on some follow-up damage from Ven or some follow-up damage from Barracuda on his own engagements, rather than playing something along the lines of a Thanatos or Pele, where if you can find someone alone in the backline, you can very easily blow them up on your own. Nike's going to take a lot longer. The TTK is going to be a lot higher for him.
Yeah, it's a good point too, especially when you look at the composition Renegades have drafted here. It really should be looking towards Lasbra, maybe on engagements, and then have Awesome Jake on that Horus follow-up, or vice versa. Netroid forced to use the ultimate away from Barracuda. Good trade out there for Barracuda, honestly, getting away with that option. Didn't cost any relics though for Netroid, and nothing was really used for Barracuda, so a small little window where we'll see if he actually freezes that lane. But on the right-hand side now, Solo or Troll on this Sun Wukong, getting some support from Awesome Jake. Focus on Jakor, great CC chain, but Jakor still slips the noose and gets his ultimate off. The chase is still on though, and Solo or Troll will use the ult to pick up the kill. He's now out of mana, however. Needs some more help from Jake and gets it in sustain, but now he's going to get flung under the tower by Rongu on the rotation to make it a 1-for-1. Damage was done, however, as Solo or Troll did at least pick up the first blood. Back to duel lane, and it's Netroid versus Barra again. And now Barra might be able to get himself a solo kill, but Netroid just about jukes into the jungle well enough. The damage over the wall not there from the banner. Barracuda unable to secure that kill.
Well played from both squads there. Sanguine very early recognizes that Renegade's looking to play a little bit frisky over there. They want to get over as soon as possible, deal with that blue buff invade. The rotation from Rongu turns it into a trade. Really well played. Barracuda just a little bit out of range on his second ability. Wasn't quite able to finish off Netroid. But if that's any indicator on how this lane's going to go, Barracuda is completely comfortable. Forces out the ultimate off of Netroid on his own, and then immediately looks for the solo kill. If he can keep that up, someone on Sanguine is going to have to respond to that pressure.
And here they come now. Rongu rotating over to this lane to make sure he just pushes Barra back for a second or two. Barra's going to play this safe without his ultimate being down, and Netroid's coming back up a little bit sooner than his now based on that engagement. But it kind of shows you what Barra knows about the matchup against Jingwei, right? Like, he's been playing very aggressive against the Jingwei early. It's kind of how you want to try and deal with her in the laning phase if you can. Put her under pressure, keep forcing her back to base, make use of that passive, and keep her on the back foot.
And look at Barracuda's build. He elects to pick up the Warrior's Tab-Eye instead of Ninja's Tab-Eye. He's sacrificing a little bit of attack speed, but it's going to make his poke potential a lot higher. The ultimate's going to be swinging for a lot more damage, as is his second ability, and he's going to get some of that attack speed back from the banner, so he could just sit inside of that and really match the attack speed that Ninja Tab-Eye should afford to Netroid. I like the build path so far. Looks like he's going to go into Devo's gloves as well, so his sustain is going to be absolutely fine.
Support's coming back over to the dual lane now. As Venenu, who's been taking trips back to base, or should I say the bunny has. One of the benefits Changar has is that little bunny that will just bring the items back for her. Doesn't look like he's going for the max cooldown option here. I'm expecting a Chronos pendant here by the looks of it. But engage on the right again towards the blue. Blink out from Solo or Troll early to force Paniton back to safety. Solo or Troll taking more damage than bargained for. Going to be careful about his health pool here as he still contests and forced to use the ultimate. Lasbra also engages with his to try and slow down Jakor. The buff is taken down for now. Renegades have to turn tail and walk away. Jakor picks it up for himself. Pressure averted from Sanguine again.
I like the positioning from Shinto there. He doesn't move in it too early. He plays around, waits to see if Renegades will overcommit. They don't. Shinto doesn't have to use anything.
Paniton, though, might need to use something now and does so. The ultimate's going to buy time for a rotation, but look where there's people waiting. Rongu flips Lasbra around, but he's still not enough to bring him down just yet. Needs a roar or something. Can't find the hook slam, and just a couple of basics and do it. Go, Rongu, go! No, leaps over the wall into Shinto, and Shinto gets another kill on the board. 134 for the season. Still tied up at 2-2 as the junglers fall down.
Now he's got a slight level lead over his lane opponent as well. He's going to scale into the late game a lot better regardless, just because he is Merlin. The damage output is there. The burn potential is a lot higher for Sanguine if they can find their way towards one of these neutral objectives instead of Pyro or Gold Fury. Renegades are going to have to be concerned about it. They need to make sure that Ven doesn't fall too far behind, because he's going to need to get those items online. He needs these huge power spikes. If that's a Chronos pendant, he's going to be sacrificing a lot of damage in his early game, which means that any sort of magical defense that does come online on the side of Sanguine is going to be even more impactful. If instead he goes for the Rod of Tahuti, his healing is going to take a huge boost, his damage will as well. I think it might be a little bit more valuable there, but Rod of Tahuti is super expensive and already at a deficit, might be a little bit rough.
So fair play could be either way. I guess the benefit for a Chonga player as well is the fact that you don't have to go back to base too often, so you can continue to farm and catch up on experience if you're behind and escalate it a little bit more so. But Aggro was saying on the desk, you know, it does feel like Renegade's roster here is a little bit lacking in magical damage overall. There's a lot of pressure on Venenu here to really find that with those waxing moons, as was mentioned on the desk.
He's going to have to do a lot in these team fights. It's going to be so execution focused on these waxing moons inside of all of these abilities. He has to know he's going to be also one of the biggest dive potentials. Chonga has some immunity in her kit. It's a pseudo beads and Aegis on her second ability. But outside of that, she's lacking in mobility. Her healing burst potential isn't nearly as high as some of the other healers that we see, like Aphrodite or Hell. So the value, the relative value of Chonga in this match is a little bit lower than I would like, especially considering she is the sole source of magic damage. If she's able to cut around these fights, group up with her team, force Sanguine to dive incredibly deep, drag them out of position, that's when Ven's going to get maximum value. And that's all incredibly execution focused.
We'll see how it works out for him as this one continues then. Between the two and how this game's going so far, well, gold is still even. Obviously, the first blood went the way of Renegades towards Solo or Troll in that right-hand lane, in the solo lane, obviously. That's what his name stands for, Solo or Troll. Actually gone for a more damage-focused build, and I kind of like this. Normally, I'm not so sure. But the Soul Eater and the Magi's Blessing start from him going on here, it's pretty okay against the likes of an Amaterasu, I want to say. But as I say that, he is getting bullied early on now by Jakor, who's now level 11. It's more about the damage you can bring to these team fights, I guess, as the game goes on.
It's also going to help him out with that Soul Eater once he gets it stacked up. His sustain and lane should be able to match a little bit what Yarkor is bringing. Yarkor has the heal on his first ability, which is up like every 9 seconds. So the amount of poke you're going to have to do is so much higher. On the wave, he can heal up in the fight, and he won't have to be solely reliant on his ultimate to make sure that he sustains up. I like the pickup, and it's going to help out a little bit with Renegade's lack of overall damage in this draft if he goes towards a more assassin/hybrid build.
Just keep an eye on what Rongyu does with this Chalice through the game and how many wards Rongyu manages to place down, because he picked up the Chalice pretty effectively so far as Netra gets aggressive against Awesome Jake with Rongyu in tow. It was Jake getting a little bit too far forward, and he takes a hell of a lot of poke there. Has to resustain back towards Barracuda and fall back as Renegades just bit off a little bit more than they can chew there. Purple buff is up in the jungle for Sanguine to look towards invading, but with Renegades now rotating over, you can see Lasbro on the mini-map. I don't think they're going to really find anything else off the back of that this time round.
I don't want Sanguine fighting at any point in this game if Shinto isn't available to at least rotate in slightly late. The majority of their damage is on him. The majority of the XP lead is on Shinto as well. 2 levels up over his lane opponent, Ven only level 12. Shinto already at level 14, 12 minutes into the game, which is absolutely insane.
Oh, yeah.
Divine Ruin just gets picked up as well. Spirit Desolation is online. His damage output, he's going to shred anyone that walks his way. Guardian, frontlining, assassin, Nike, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. This Merlin should be able to blow them up, and if Sanguine play accurately around that, they should be able to win just about any team fight.
Man fight in the duo lane, but it's less of a man fight because I will say Awesome Jake was waiting in the wings. Good use of the ultimate from Netroid to get back to safety. Was forced away from that Alpha Harpy on the left-hand side. Rotation now coming from Sanguine in response. You were mentioning about Merlin, you know, this is what we're seeing a little bit more of now, these flat pen options. People realizing flat pen's useful. Spirit Desolation, Divine Rune, both have a lot of flat penetration. But funny enough, we've also got this whole run of Tahuti that you were expecting from Venenu here. So it will give him a bit more sustain and more power output, I would say, Myth. It just does come at the cost of being an expensive item to get online.
It is super expensive. You can already see the difference maker there. He doesn't have the lead, so Spear of Desolation is similar in value as far as gold goes. It's a little bit less expensive than Tahuti, but that 160 power coming online, that passive that he's going to be able to use to be able to make sure that his team stays alive a lot longer, deal as much damage as he possibly can, some of that penetration. But with the 4 physical stack on Renegades, maybe Sanguine decided to pick up some physical defense first. It's not that bad of a trade-off for Ben.
Yeah, well, Gold Fury could be looked at for a second, but Oracle's going to go the way of Sanguine, relieve the pressure there. Pretty much a chill game so far between the two, eyeing each other up. Obviously an important one with how the games have gone just lately. Both teams struggling in the standings. Renegades on the worst part of that as they're currently sat around that 6th position. You did get to hear a little bit from Rowe there about how he felt coming into this, like coming confident but not overconfident up against this Sanguine team who've had, well, they got off to a great start at the beginning of the season, started to struggle as of late, but recently bounced back in their games up against their opposition. So I want to see how this one plays out here. I'm just excited to see what happens when we get to our first real team fight of the game.
Sanguine really back to their basics. We saw that they started to struggle when they shifted their focus towards trying to invade purple buff in the early game, trying to find early aggression all over the map. Sanguine was at their best when they were grouped up, just farming and waiting for that 5-on-5 stack, and they're back to it now. There's only 4 kills, 14 minutes in. Sanguine has arguably the better late game team composition. They're completely fine just waiting it out, making sure that Shinto is able to farm efficiently, get Panatom online, get all these guys just farmed out and ready to group up as 5. And if Renegades decide not to use any of this early aggression in their draft towards going towards an objective, Sanguine's absolutely fine not doing it themselves, or they could force a fight and really leverage the fact that Shinto has a huge lead.
Fury started up, down to half health as Jake tries to get him, forced out a second by Veneno. Round the back is Lasbra though, looking for an angle. Panatom seems to sense the danger and make sure they reset the Fury. Jake, a bit of an awkward spot still with Veneno, however, so should be relatively safe as Jakor rotates in. And now the fight around the Fury can begin. Nice CC chain on Jakor, and no chance for him to escape at all. Veneno credit with a kill. Waxing mode was utilized. Panatom on the runaway though as he's disarmed by Lasbra, who also uses ultimate there. Fury started up then by Renegades. Netroid and Rongu trying to get into the pit first of all. Waiting for the opportunity is Netroid for the Gust knockup. The Solar Troll on the front side does good damage to Rongu, setting up Barracuda for the kill. Good work from the front line of Renegades there to open up this window so far.
Sanguine get a little bit overzealous. They started up that Gold Fury. They wanted to force that fight, use some of that burn potential. Immediately, Renegades rotate in, just show face, and Sanguine almost with just fear in their hearts immediately back off the defensive positioning and get caught out one by one. Rongu gets picked out. Yarkor gets picked out because they're getting over aggressive while the rest of the core of their team, Panatom, Shinto, and Netrioid, weren't in position to help them. Renegades do a fantastic job of exploiting that, getting the 2 kills and immediately picking up the Gold Fury on the back end of it. And now, for the first time this game, there's an actual sizable lead, about 2,000 gold in favor of Renegades, a little bit of XP as well. It closed up some of that level gap. Now, Ven is only 1 level down rather than 2 or 3. That's fantastic, and he's going to get some of that gold online. Spear of Deso, his damage output is nothing to scoff at anymore.
Yeah, that's for sure. It will start to uptick as well, especially if they're going to fight in those narrow corridors around the jungle too. I don't think Yakor could really make much happen there though on that rotation, and he got picked very early on in that engagement, Myth. It kind of like they really missed having that frontliner to help them out there.
They needed it. He tried to frontline. He just chose his time poorly. Walked in, does pull the aggro of all 5 members of Renegades, but unfortunately no damage output from Sanguine means that he's just going to fall for free. Sanguine, not deterred, going to group up around this Pyro and see if they can try it again.
Looking towards Awesome Jake, who's taken to the sky. Damage is down on landing from Shinto, but not enough to really set anything up. Lasbra goes to the backside looking at Shinto, but in the sky, it's not a bird. It's Jake landing down, and he brings a squad with him, but Rongu says, no, son, get out of my half of the map. Lasbra's forced back to base 2 as the chase is too much, and the W key plan from Renegades is going to tatters because Netroid's here, but the Aegis is keeping him alive for a second. Veneno jukes around nicely and picks himself up a double kill to answer it back 3-2. Renegades come out on top, and now they can look towards the Pyro. I was going to talk about, Myth, this build from Renegades in terms of the amount of mobility they're going for. Talisman of Energy on Solo or Troll, Wingblade and Talaria boots for Lasbra, and and the Talaria boots for Awesome Jake too. They really just want to like zoom on in and dive, and that's what you saw happen.
Immediately. A fantastic play from Ven there to bait out Netroid. Netroid could have got out of his ultimate safely, went back towards his tier 2 tower. Instead, he sees that there's about 1 health, but Ven has his second ability online. Netroid lands down, Ven just dips out of dodge. There's no way Netroid gets out alive there. Fantastic bait. All this additional movement speed in RNG's builds means that they can just find their way into the backline. Shinto is not nearly as safe as he thinks he is when there's so many speedy frontliners just literally hunting him down. Yes, you have Flicker available. Yes, you've got your team around you, but it doesn't matter if all that damage is still able to find its way home. And it certainly did. Renegades running away with it now. That's 2 engagements in a row that they win cleanly. Only about 3,000 gold in the lead, but there's plenty of towers left on the map to take. The neutral objectives are down for the next couple minutes, but they should be fine.
Bit of aggression from Panitom again towards Jake, and Jake is level 13, Panitom 14 now. You can start to see where the lead is starting to come from for Renegades here. Lasbo with a 2-level lead then over Panitom at the moment. As Solo Troll keeps trying to sneak into the jungle, strip away a little bit more, but a bit of pressure towards mid again out of Sanguine. We'll see what they can make use of there. I mean, mobility-wise too, don't forget, a lot of people sleep on Chang'e in terms of her passive, not just the Jade Rabbit, but the fact that when she uses an ability, she gets 25% movement speed for a second or two. That can really help out. Solo Troll rotating towards mid, can't find that Tiger form onto Rongyu there, who slips away for now as we approach the 20-minute mark. It's not looking bad for Renegade so far. This sustaining position that they like to run consistently seems to be paying off for him so far.
And they've got this fantastic king protection comp. All these tanky targets, the safety in your hunter means that if anyone does decide to dive onto Ven, he should have at least 1, maybe even 2 people to help him peel out and continue putting out damage. The healing's coming online very quickly. We already saw that he was able to leverage that heal in that fight to make sure that his entirety of his team makes it out safely. And so far, Sanguine hasn't found any opportunity to truly dive onto Ven just yet. It's because they've been taking these disadvantageous fights every step of the way. They pull the Gold Fury originally, immediately get pushed back, die, get picked, and lose that objective. They pull the Pyromancer themselves. The same thing happens again. Second burst, same as the first. Sanguine are picking fights across the board, trying to put the pressure onto Renegades, but they're not choosing it wisely, and it doesn't seem like they have a plan to respond to Renegades' response to them.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Venenu does the rest of this game, though, because I know he's been under a lot of pressure from, the viewers, the fans at home, saying that Venenu seems to be, hitting and missing quite often for the most part. But this game of Chang'e so far, 4-0 and 2, level 19 at 20 minutes in, ain't bad at all. Sure, he's still behind Shinto in levels, but he's putting on a performance. Renegades, though, gonna start up this Primal Fury and lure Sanguine in. Jakor's the last one over here. Solo Troll on the way too, as a sash from Panitom misses. But with the Oracles going the way of Renegades here, it's easy vision for them for the time being to make sure Sanguine aren't up to no good.
I like what they're doing. The second Sanguine move in, they reset the Primal, try and see if they can find an engagement. Sanguine back off, so they pull it again. They're looking continuously to force this fight.
Oh, but Solo Troll isn't tanky enough to hold that long, and he's forced to use the ult early on. Shinto still gets the kill. The damage through the floor was enough for that one. Next on the list is Awesome Jake as he's spun around by Rongyu. And within a second, it's turned around where Sanguine get an advantage, but Lasper goes in, tries to secure, just can't find enough of that rent to do that. And Netroid jumping in towards Lasper forces him back. That leaves Barracuda on his own, who used his ultimate defensively. Chase is still on as Sanguine trying to wrap around the corner. Shinto and Jakora waiting there, but won't even be needed as Rongyu picks up the kill on Barracuda. Sanguine back in the game, and it looked like they might be able to get more here. There's just not much really up in the jungle for them to take.
30 seconds left on the spawn on SOT. Jake's up in about 2 seconds, but that's not enough. Sanguine can very easily move in towards Fire Giant here, and they should be able to clear it before anyone is able to respond on the side of Renegades. Ven's the closest one, but already you see Panitom positioning around the jungle, trying to slow down the rotation path in.
One of the reasons if you go for a squishier build on a Sun Wukong that you can get bursted down like that, sure, there was a bit of an unfortunate circumstance with it, but Fire Giant now towards Sanguine. They can start to get a bit of a lead now because they've got a couple more towers to take. Tier 1 falls on the left, Tier 1 falls in mid, and Tier 1 falls in right. And a second later, well, you're looking at about a 1,500 gold lead.
Yeah, starting to Glee, they're already on the way there. 1,500 gold, and there's so many neutral objectives left on the map. All these towers, this gold lead should go absolutely Sanguine's way. If they get through all the tier 1 towers and even just one tier 2, that should be enough to get some of their builds start to finish out. They can then reset, try to move towards this gold free on the tail end of their fire giant, and use that to get that themselves there. They have so much to split up this map. They could try and go for the 4v1, or the 4-on-1 split, I should say, and have Panatom pressure out mid for someone to respond there. Sanguine's team comp is really leaning towards late game focus, 5-on-5 engagement, and they've got there. They've hit critical mass, 7 and 8, about 2,000 gold in the lead. Now Renegades are going to have to find out what this comp is supposed to do. If SOT and Lazarus can't dive the backline, how are they going to respond? It's not going to be just off the back of pure damage out of your mage, because it's a Chang'e.
Sanguine working on just whittling down the towers now. Tier 2 on the left goes down. I will say that last engagement, though, we saw Lazarus stay in mid lane and deal with Jakor for a second, and Solo or Troll ended up in that team fight early. I'd rather see it the other way round, where they fight be more fortuitous. Awesome Jake, not fortuitous at all there, as Ronyu takes his life. Barracuda's angry about the situation, though, goes on Panitom, but now he's in no man's land, and Jakor's gonna hunt him down with Panitom. 5 members surround Barracuda. A classic situation that he'd seen in his rank games. Good waxing move from Venenu, though. Might be able to get hold of Panitom, but now he's bitten off more than he can chew as well. And with their damage dealers dead on Renegades, this could be a Phoenix, if not the game.
They've got 20 seconds left on Jake. It might not be the game, but it should absolutely be the Phoenix. Panatom had to have been sweating there. Ven hits him with the 3rd tick on that waxing moon. That's a 3-second stun, but the Titan?
Lasbro was too late coming back to base for my liking. The burst is there, the damage is good, but it's looking like it will go the way of Sanguine. Game 1 in the book.
That's exactly what Sanguine wanted to do. They waited for that 20-minute mark, and immediately they started winning fights back to back to back to back. At no point did it seem like once Renegades had to group up as 5, that their team comp really made any cohesive sense. They weren't able to dive effectively because Sun Wukong had to go a little bit squishier in his build. Lazarus falls behind in the early, as does Ven. No damage output from your mage, truthfully. I'm not sure what that Chang'e was for, but it certainly wasn't that.
Well, it did okay in the game. I don't think you can really blame on Chang'e there. I think that one fight around the Fury is the most important one for me. And it kind of is the difference between Nike being in mid, keeping away the solo laner, and the solo or troll being around the Fury. I'd rather those switch around, you know, have that frontline tank be there earlier, and then have the damage come in later from solo or troll. That's my outlook on it. But for now, let's see what the desk has to say.
That's a big win for Sanguine that first set. Sorry, guys, I got the hiccups. Big win, though. And who was the one that was looking really strong for that team? For me, it was Shinto. In honor of him, I'm going to be letting you all know about the final boss battle pass. Shinto is the final boss if you let him play Merlin, and you all can go enjoy this battle pass in the game. You get 4 exclusive skins, 200 gems, and even more content now. It includes the Elder Jin Baba Yaga. That skin looks really sick. The Shadow Guan Yu, Legion Hades, and the Frost Gorgon Medusa. A lot there for you all to make sure that you're enjoying. Now, Aggro, we could talk a little bit about how this game got so out of control for Renegades because they had a good start to this one. Was it really just that one Fury fight where everything got out of control?
That Fury fight happened at about 21 minutes. The game was over at 24. It was Renegades for the first 21 minutes. They make one mistake, and they lose the game off of it. And that's exactly the conversation that we were having in set 1, wasn't it? That in this year's SPL, you are allowed to make 0 mistakes and get away with it. If you make even one, good teams will punish you, and that's exactly what Sanguine did. I mean, they have a draft that really snowballs games effectively and snowballs fights because they've got so many characters that insta-kill you for not having beads. If you don't have beads against Naja, you don't have beads against Xing Chen, you're going to die. That's kind of what these characters do. Amaterasu, same sort of deal. And it immediately, Solar Troll got picked a little bit out of position. Then Jake, nowhere near the rest of his team, he gets picked out of position. And then Renegades just don't give it up. From that position, you just have to give that fight up. And then you're still in the lead. You're still chilling. You've still got this Chang'e come late game that's going to be pretty potent. Ven really, despite how much I normally hate this Chang'e pick, I thought had a great performance on it. He was 4-0 up until the very end. But ultimately, it's just one mistake, and then the enemy team just never lets you back in the game, and Sanguine hit the gas from that one fight onward.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm taking my notes, I have here around the 21-minute mark, Sanguine a 2-0 at the Fury, and I stopped writing. That should have been the end of it, right? But they just wouldn't let it go. They came back in. I also wrote down that Shinto does a lot of damage on Merlin, but that's nothing new. But yeah, Renegades,
Sure.
It felt like to me, just wouldn't give up on that fight, right? Lasbert and Barra kind of re-engaged on the back end of it, and that was not a particularly great look there for them. But truly, it's just like Rose said at the beginning of the game, right? That a lot of the times it feels like they just end up making these odd, sort of uncharacteristic mistakes. And I think eventually they become characteristic to me, right? I mean, it's too many of these from Renegades. They got to make sure they clean up. I know it was just one kind of fight that gets away from them, but that's literally all it takes.
Exactly. They were ahead for 21 minutes, and then they lost at 24. So that kind of tells you the story of how important that one series of mistakes really, really was. And the good news for Renegades fans is that they were winning for 21 minutes, and they looked like they were going to be in a really good position going forward in this game. If they can get rid of those sorts of mistakes, then things will look better. But until that happens, you kind of have to watch with bated breath, waiting for when that mistake was going to just occur, because it seems to always happen.
Yeah, we'll say rip to Venenu for that awesome Waxy Moon at the end of the game. Unfortunately, a 3-man ult does you no good when everyone else is dead. Let's go ahead and move on to the picks and bans now for game number 2, which could just be our final game of the day if Sanguine are able to wrap this up, and we've got two O's on our plate. But I don't know, man. Somehow that just doesn't feel right. Sanguine always make it to a third game, and Renegades are in control for most of that one. So I wouldn't be surprised at all, Aggro, if we end up with a third one here. But we got to see what tools they will take into the match here first, and that's what we'll find out here.
And now, if you're Renegades, I mean, do you feel like that Horus that you first picked was really a contributing factor to why you got this lead? Do you want to try and put Venenu on that Merlin, try and take it away from Shinto? But kind of like I said at the very beginning, does that really even do that much for you, taking Merlin away from Shinto? Because then he'll just go Hebo or Raijin or something else that's going to really destroy your game plan. So I feel like if you're Renegades, you want to stick to your identity and your game plan, and that's what should determine their first pick, not necessarily trying to take something away from Sanguine.
Yeah, I agree. All these mages are good. Mid laners have it so easy right now. Their cup runneth over with great selections. They can all stop whining. I'm right there with you, Aggro. As the Ganesh emoji banned out. That is it. I said it back to you verbatim, and no one can prove any different. Aphrodite and Camazot's banned from Sanguine as well. So it looks like not going to be any big shifts from Renegades in terms of how they're going to go about these picks and bans. And for the most part, I agree. They were in control for a lot of that game and certainly in a good spot. I think it did hurt them that Shinto was able to farm up a nice early lead in that last game too, though. But other than that, I think Renegades are right in it.
Yeah, I think that you can stick with the same identity, go with the Horus first pick. I think this totally makes sense for what Renegades were able to do on the good side of that last game. So now Sanguine almost certainly just going to go Jingwei Merlin yet again, because why wouldn't you just go with those two picks right off the bat when they're going to give you that much success? Specifically the Merlin. Maybe the Jingwei you want to go away from and maybe get some extra pressure, but overall, I still think that Merlin Jingwei is the way I would go.
Was the one that gets a whole lot of all that extra cool action, all that. It was Netroid who was up at the top of the player damage charts, man. My man Netroid was the one that was getting a lot of that work done on the Jingwei, so I don't see any reason not to go back to it yet again. He had a great game last time. He often does on this pick. I just think he's really comfortable on it. You can't push him out of the game enough where he won't eventually just become relevant on it again.
Right, exactly. That's what makes Jingwei so strong, is that you can bully her if you want in lane. You can get ahead, and then eventually she is still late game Jingwei, and eventually you're going to have to deal with it in the midst of team fighting, which is hard for even a character like Nike that usually dives these backlines really effectively. Renegades really feel like this core is what really got them ahead in that last game, this 3v3 core of Horus, Nike, Chang'e. I mean, it did. It got them ahead, and really the way that Venenu played those early skirmishes was really effective, I thought. But at the end of the day, you still lost that game in pretty convincing fashion, at least in terms of the time on the clock. So Renegades are going to have to make some changes. Maybe the Wukong pick. I mean, you think about the fight that loses them the game ultimately. It was Wukong getting isolated and picked out in that fight. So maybe if they go with something a little bit different in the solo lane, Renegades can find a different result.
That could potentially be the big difference maker all by itself. I mean, I talked a bit earlier about how I felt, well, not just felt, but Venenu fell behind in farm that game. That was kind of they were rotating so much and doing all of that fighting, or what did you see that you thought led to that deficit in the middle lane, and do you want to see him maybe make some adjustments there?
Here's the deal. Shinto creates gold and experience out of thin air. It's what makes him phenomenal as a player. This dude just always finds a level lead somewhere. And usually it's because Rongyu or Panatom are a little bit further behind. I just honestly don't think that trying to match Shinto's farm level is what you have to do, because no one's done it, and teams have beaten Sanguine without doing it. So it happens. To be honest, I don't know how it happens. He just feels like he always has that lead. He's always sharing back XP, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't put Panatom that far behind. They have some secret worked out, man. They're working some magic over on that Sanguine side, because Shinto always has a lead. It's the way of the world now, you know? The sky is blue, Shinto has a golden XP lead. That's all it is to it.
Well, sounds like maybe Renegades shouldn't be pressed about it. Can keep being aggressive with that same 3v3 core. Looks like they're going to change up the side lanes, though. The Osiris and the Chernobog coming out from, I think Bear was on the Hachiman there last time instead. And I like this, too. This gives them some more rotational ability to go with the Horus plus Osiris, a great brawler that might not die in that same spot.
Yeah, I like this switch up in that side lane. The Wukong getting picked was a key part of how that fight started well for Sanguine around that Gold Fury. Now Barra has a lot more global presence. If you feel like the biggest strength of this comp is your 3v3, the Nike and the Horus and the Chang'e, facilitate that with good early game rotations from the Osiris and a global ultimate rotation from this Chernobog. I think that this is a smart adjustment here by Renegades to try and counteract what went wrong in the last game.
It'll be Kakulland around this draft out here for Sanguine, and it'll be time for the action here as well. Game number 2, and Sanguine with a chance to take.
They really do have one, Finch. Let's see how this one plays out at the beginning here then. Oh, Jake got to blink over the wall immediately. Get aggressive on Netroid, but no one's really with him. So I think Netroid will be okay to just limp back to base. Myth joining me on the call again. How do you feel about the adjustments from both teams here, Myth?
I like it a lot. It seems like Renegades have a little bit more focus in their draft. The dive potential should come through a lot more likely with this Osiris. Chernokuda is coming out of the woodwork now. He should be able to dive into the back line, and if they take fights on opposite sides of the map, you know he's there. Yes, or Barabog? What do you prefer?
Oh god, they're both awful. Barabog sounds worse, so I prefer that one. Let's go with Barabog. I like that. I can handle calling Barabog is just another name of a toilet, so we basically call him Barra Toilet. I mean, if that's what we want to do, I guess chat will like it.
But Bog means all right, let's move away from that. Sanguine's draft is also incredibly strong. It's generally the same. We're seeing a lot of the same pieces coming through. Shinto got Merlin again. That's a yikers for me. He played incredibly well all year on this god. It's surprising that Renegades decided to let it through, and Yarkor on this Kakulland means that he should be able to get that lane pressure, or at least be able to fight into this Osiris. Both teams have good drafts, but again, having the soul magic damage be on a Chang'e is a bit of a question mark for me.
Interesting start going on from Renegades here as they bring minions with them, and these minions are doing work, my friend. They have really put the pressure back on towards them, Jake, and Barabog for a second or two. Sanguine in a decent enough is now. The jungler's rotating in here as well. Looks like Lasbra, after getting the red buff, giving the speed over to Venenu, wants to get here early and keep this pressure rolling. Strip away the purple, keep Netroid and Rongyu pinned at level 1 for as long as possible.
I like it a lot. I mean, this early aggression, Aggro pointed out in game 1, that's how you're going to beat Sanguine. That's the most consistent way to put them behind, is to make sure that Netroid and Rongyu can't get off to a good start. If they both fall behind, that means they're likely going to have to stick together a lot longer in the early game, so you won't see that roaming death ball that Sanguine's known for, at least for another 2 to 3 minutes, which is a long time.
Interested to see what Panitom's gone for here as well with the bead start at the beginning of the game. I'm kind of looking at Renegade's roster for the most part. I'm like, there's not a whole ton of hard CC that he's going to have to deal with, right? Is he really that worried with Waxing Moon, or is it something else that I'm missing here? Why has he gone for beads?
It's likely a bit of the Waxing Moon. You've got CC out of Lasbra. You can maybe preemptively beads that and not get knocked up. There's a stun on SOT. They have a lot of inconsistent conditional CC that he might be worried about. But beads is not just a defensive tool. You can use it aggressively. If you think you're going to be chasing out an enemy, a stun could stop you from getting that kill. Won't stun you if you have beads.
Well, I mean, back in the old days as well, beads used to give you cooldown reduction once upon a time when you used it too. So you could actually reset an ability, get it up a bit quicker. But that's a good point. Yeah, you can use it quite aggressively. I'm a bit surprised because, you know, playing Naja in the jungle and a low CC early game momentum situation, I was expecting more of a blink, a bit more of an aggressive option, you know?
Normally you would see the blink here, but again, Sanguine is so ready to just sit it out for the first 15, 20 minutes, just farm out, play it slowly. Maybe that's what Panatom's plan is as well. He just wants to farm up, be safe. No better way to be safe than a defensive relic. If he has blink, if he sees any sort of aggression, he might be able to get targeted out, but with beads, he's got that safety. They should be able to just farm up their own jungle, maybe respond towards any sort of aggression from Renegades, and just play through that. It makes sense to me insofar as Sanguine's play style, but normally you would like to see Naja get involved in the early.
Well, Lasbrid already just used his blink there to actually blink on the red buff that was already taken down early by Shinto. He was on the mark, but it is another attempt at another invasion of the purple that's successful for Renegades, and some pressure towards his Alpha Harpy too. Sure, it's not a ton of experience, but it's just more denial of Sanguine's duo lane. But what can Panatom make up for this elsewhere then? If Lasbrid's going to hang around on the left, he needs to go deep on the right, and is doing just that now. Maybe a bit of a chance for some pressure towards the right-hand side, but at level 4, it's going to be a bit trickier to find the kill onto someone like a Cyrus in the laning phase.
So far, Sanguine have been doing a good job of mitigating the losses. So far, 2 purple buffs have been invaded. They got taken away cleanly. No kills just yet. But take a peek at the gold. It's still completely even slightly at times in favor of Sanguine by like 2 or 3. They're doing a good job of finding their farm elsewhere on the map. They're not taking fights that they don't think they can win, so they don't group up around the purple. They're not trying to defend it just yet. They're, again, as Sanguine always does, waiting for that 20-minute mark.
Well, with how this game's gone so far, you can just see where the experience is coming from already. Lasbra and Venenu shared a little bit more of these waves, and in the jungle a little bit more so. And that's given Lasbra a lead over Panatom, but Shinto has a lead over Venenu right now. And that's because Shinto's been getting a bit more of the jungle farm of the red buff on his own. Panatom just trying to hit level 5, denied by Lasbra as Lasbra gets aggressive again. Looks for the shield and finds it. Jake on the rotation in, beads used. Knockup was there after the beads, and Panatom could be first blood any moment. And will be Jake getting credit for the kill.
That was a slow counter rotation from Sanguine. Rongyu doesn't decide to move in and help out at all, which is surprising. Look at the health bars on Renegades. Ven nearly dies there. Lasbra nearly dies there. They're very low. If there was some sort of follow-up from Rongyu, maybe the fight turns around a little bit. But the call certainly was to back off, so if that's what you're doing, follow it, get out of there. Makes sense to me. Renegades shouldn't get too much off the back end of that. They might be able to get another purple buff invade, but they were likely going to do that either way. First blood goes their way. No skin off of Sanguine's teeth, though. They're still completely in the game. Again, taking a peek at the gold, it's only about 100 in favor of Renegades.
Yeah, we'll just see how this one continues on then, because very similar tale to Game 1, I would say, although the end of Game 1 came very, very quickly in Sanguine's favor off the back of a Fury fight that just turned into, well, game over. Awesome Jake getting aggressive around the purple buff here. Ultimate damage in actually onto Barracuda too, caused a lot of problems there as well, as that ultimate Rongyu did cause some resets of the purple too, but Renegade's still in a good position to strip this one away yet again. More denial of experience in the duo lane, Barracuda getting that purple for himself.
It's got to be so frustrating for Netroid. Renegades are playing incredibly well around denying him that farm. 3 purple buffs have gone Renegade's way, and I don't see any stop to it coming soon, as Sanguine hasn't even started to counter-rotate on any of these. They're not dropping the wards on it, so they likely don't have the timer. Maybe they're just content giving it up continuously, but that bleed is going to start to amount to something eventually. Renegade's doing a fantastic job, and this continuous pressure means that Rongyu has to stick around a little bit longer. It means that Netroid's going to fall behind and has to be under pressure more. This is it. This is how you get into Sanguine's head.
Oh, Shinto still under pressure here, but slips away from danger again. The rend isn't going to be enough because Panatom comes in and finds a beautiful sash. Now into the ultimate to the follow-up. Shinto's there. Clean up in Isle Jungle. 2 kills the way of Sanguine so far. There was a kill in the way of Shinto. Did fall down at the tail end of this to Solo War Troll, but the action's still continuing as Panatom and Awesome Jake trading out. Surrounded is Awesome Jake now, but Solo War Troll and him are both relatively healthy. Panatom a different story as Troll gets another one, but then Netroid swooping on him from the other half of the map. Thanks to that Jingwei passive, puts the pressure back onto Renegades, and Solo War Troll will fall down. All that pressure that was on the dual lane for a second has now been answered already as Netroid makes a good rotation.
That's been Sanguine's MO since day one. It seems like Renegades get a little bit frustrated with the slow pace. They take a fight deep in enemy jungle between tier 1 and tier 2 mid towers for Sanguine. And when you're on this Jingwei, you can get there instantly. Return to base, fly in, no skin off your teeth. That's a clean rotation in, and it catches him up in XP, Netroid that is, to Barracuda. It closes up that gold gap that they were starting to establish on the side of Renegades, and now Sanguine's got about 1,000 in their favor. It doesn't seem like either team's going to be able to turn it into real pressure, but for right now, Sanguine's comfy.
Yeah, I mean, Myth, that was one fight in the jungle where Sanguine came out ahead, and that was a classic. They found Shinto in an awkward spot, pinched him, but he still escaped for so long, and it actually turned around that his death came at the cost of, I think, 3 or 4 Renegades' lives there. Oracle's now, though, started up by Sanguine. They'll get the secure on that for this time round as Jake watches on. Couldn't really do much against 3 members being there. And in mid lane, Venenu now still working towards what probably will be that Rodder Tahuti again. I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot more like flexible picks going on in terms of your casual games and your ranked games, especially with the likes of Chunga now going mid. I don't want them on my team if I'm honest. Red buff being looked at by Renegades, but it's not up at the moment. Blinking from awesome Jake. Looking at Rongyu, who got pinched on an angle. Round the back comes Lasbury for the cleanup on Rongyu. Rongyu doesn't know about it. He will as that Ren damage comes through, and Lasbury picks up the kill and escapes, but Panitum on the chase. Jake's there to support too. Love this ultimate, actually, just to make sure that Lasbury gets out unscathed.
That was well played from Jake. No counter aggression from Sanguine, especially after that Horus ult comes through. Take a peek at the XP though. Shinto already establishing a level lead. Yarkor getting aggressive in that soul lane. The ultimate from Panatom, but the counter rotation from Renegades is in.
And it isn't indeed, and Jakor does take down Solo on troll, but can they punish Jakor for it? He did just transform though, so a bit more mobility and damage! And there it is as he gets himself a double kill. Swoop, there he is! It's Barrabog to the rescue! Or will it be Barrapog? Let's find out! Barra looking for the autos, not going to get to pass the final one. Jake will though and secure a kill, but that'll come at the cost of his life as he can swoop back to safety, and does so. Rongyu picks up the pieces, and Barracuda has to turn tail. All the while on the left-hand side, Sanguine get themselves a Gold Fury with Shinto and Netroid.
You gotta be aware of that opportunity immediately. If Shinto's on Merlin, that burn potential is absolutely there for the Gold Fury. But I gotta go back a couple seconds. Did you call him Barrapog?
I mean, he wasn't Pog there, was he? I mean, he didn't get a kill, so no. You know,
that's awesome nonetheless.
Okay. I was more like, yeah, Barrapog or Barrapog. It's either Barra Toilet or Barrapog champ, right? Like, that makes sense to me.
No, that's super sick, and he does get the ultimate rotation off, but unfortunately, it does leave the Gold Fury open, and we saw exactly what Sang was able to do with that one opportunity. Now about 2,000 gold in the lead, XP is going their way as well. Only about a level deficit in favor of Sanguine across the board. We see a level on Yarkor, we see a level on Shinto. The supports and ADCs are about equalized, the jungler's got about 1 level there. Sanguine, still, they're not looking for constant aggression. Every single fight that they've taken and won has been off the back of Renegades going deep, Renegades looking for ganks, something like that.
Do want to point out one thing. Just keep an eye on Jakor in that solo lane on that Kukulin. 4-0-3 at 10 minutes in on a solo laner. And when you think about it, he's not really left lane that much. He went into his own jungle near his back harpies, got involved in kills there, and gets a double and a couple more in the solo lane. But this play from Jake, where's he going? He ain't going anywhere for fun, I'll tell you that much. Panitom, though, took a lot more damage than bargained for and has to use his ult defensively to get back towards Netroid. Barra swooping on in, though, trying to close the gap. Can't get there in time, however, and now Rongyu round the back will catch Barracuda during the leap too. He got his beads as well, and Shinto gets to pick him up. Barra is down, Lasma could be soon to follow. Cancel that, Venenu's damage is good enough, but on landing, Netroid there picks him up, and now Venenu's in no man's land too, deep in enemy territory here. Arcane damage be damned, Netroid with a double kill, and Sanguine are just winning every scrappy battle.
Sanguine get the double kill and it lands on a Netroid, but the standout player to me there is Shinto. He was allowed to free cast because his positioning was so strong. He gets so much damage off in these fights because no one on the Renegades is able to challenge him. So far, he's been largely uncontested. 1-1 is his slash line, but he's doing incredibly well. His farm is the highest in the squad, the highest net worth. That's hard to do when you're splitting farm with your jungler, but he's been able to aggressively move throughout the jungle. Every time we see Renegades rotate in for a gank, Shinto's either counter-rotating to find the fight, or he's moving through the jungle, finding back camps, taking away mid camps, farming up incredibly efficiently, and he's established a 2-level lead. Right now, Renegades have been continually trying to find aggression, looking for ganks, looking for any opportunity that they can to establish a foothold, and Sanguine have been doing a fantastic job of just responding slowly and calculated and finding the fights that they need to win.
Yeah, it's a counter-initiation strat. We've seen it time and time before. I will say it's like insanity how this game's gone, though. With the early game, Renegades were in control of the dual lane. They'd done decent pressure on the other side of the map, too, with Lasper looking towards the potential pressure there. But then when you look at the level discrepancy here, Shinto's got a 2-level lead in mid again. Netroid now, who was at one point denied so much farm from his own purple, has a 2-level lead over Barracuda, and Jakor, the man-mounted Kukulkan, is looking for a 1v1. He might not really need Shinto's help, but he's going to get it. Tier 1 falls, as does Solo Troll, and Lasper on the rotation gets picked up into the sky and swooshed around on exit. Forced to use his ult defensively there as 4 members of Sanguine group up to keep this pressure rolling.
They used 4 of their ultimates there. They don't have much available yet. Netroid still has that safety inside of his, but meanwhile, the rest of Sanguine are pulling out that Pyromancer. Aggression from Jake, the ultimate to chase out Netroid. Barra Pog in the backline.
And it is Barra Pog this time round. No, it's not. Jake steals the kill. No Pog for you today. That's a good pickup for Renegades, though, just shutting down Netroid. But I love the idea from Sanguine here. Send one man off in a bit of a different direction. Hey, if they're sending 2-3 members at a dude, we should be looking for something else elsewhere. It's just playing the map effectively. Sanguine are just so good at that as a team. And it's one of the reasons I think they've done so well this season, is they've had this chemistry for so long. This Sanguine team have been playing together for a very long time. And you can really tell when it gets to team fights, everyone knows their duty. Everyone knows where they should be and how to execute.
Yeah, when you play together this long, you're not just teammates anymore. These guys are friends. They work together incredibly well. They make up for each other's individual weaknesses, and now that they establish Pyromancer dominance from themselves, and that desynced respawn timer with the Gold Fury means that if Sanguine decide to group up and try and burn out gold, there will be no counter engage onto the Pyro from Renegades. There's nothing left on the map. If Renegades want to stop the bleed, they're going to have to take that engagement around the Gold Fury if Sanguine decide to start it up, and they're going to be at the deficit in that fight. Now nearly 4,000 gold. Sanguine can force a fight anywhere on the map that they truly want. Mid tower is incredibly low if they decide to siege there. Their burn potential on Gold Fury is incredibly high because Shinto is already level 16. Sanguine has free reign. It's going to take some truly poggers plays from Renegades to stop it.
Yeah, I think the big key here is, though, what we need to see out of people trying to shut down Shinto, because he is such a beast in this mid lane for Sanguine. I don't know if you try and hit his god ball a bit. I just don't think you can give him Merlin this much. He's so comfortable on this god and makes good waves with it. Position are always solid too. Maybe try and mix it up a little bit. At the moment, though, what can we see Renegades do back? Well, Lasbra and Paddington, both level 12 now, have their second relics online. But with how the action's been so far, the supports are right behind them. It is giving a bit more farm towards the mid laners, though. They're the ones with the real lead. But most importantly, Sanguine with the lead everywhere. Committing to a Fury, and Renegades no one in sight of doing this at all. Just an uncontested Fury can't be happening there. Rough situation then for Renegades.
The second that Sanguine see that SOT's on that solo side of the map, they know he doesn't have teleport available. He elects instead to pick up Blink and the Thorns. That means there's no counter rotation towards that Gold Fury. Nothing can come through. Renegades decide, well, we know they're there, but we can't win the fight. Might as well not walk in and risk our lives as well. SOT tries to find some farm on the other side of the map, but Gold Fury goes uncontested. Now 5,000 gold in favor of Sanguine. Mid tower already down. Pyromancer respawning soon. Renegades are going to have to look for some sort of picks. They have to find these split up engagements. They're not looking for the 5v5. And if they're looking for anything, it should be Shinto.
I think the most important, they're just looking for freaking farm right now, Renegades, with how it started out so far. I mean, 16 minutes in, and we're also already in a worse state than we were game one for Renegades. They were in the lead at this point in time, and now they find themselves pretty far behind with how this one's played out so far. Now keeping an eye on Netroid here, 3-1 and 2, working towards that crit, probably the Poison Star. We'll see where that ends up going here. A little bit of crit can make a difference towards the weaker targets. I don't really see crit being that useful, though, against really heavy frontline tanky options. And when you look at what they've got here, I mean, Lasbra on a Nike and a Cyrus and the Horus, your crits aren't going to do that much, unless you can really get to the backline.
you're definitely looking to get to the back line. I would have expected to see the Tank Buster build for Netroid here, but this build that he's going right now, the Wind Demon, likely a Poison Star, that it's called the Netroid build. Maybe he's just going to do it every single game.
Awesome, Jake getting aggressive in the jungle as well, more than anything. Paddy Tom looking for the sash on Lasbra. Lasbra's still under pressure here, does have beads now that he's level 12, or at least 14, but has to use them there against Rongyu's ultimate. Pressure towards the Fire Giant could start to begin though. Renegades have a couple of wards down, and I'm saying pressure towards FG, because there's nothing really on the map for Sanguine to look to take away. And we're only 17 minutes in, and Netroid's starting this one up with Jakor, as Paddy Tom and Rongu keep them busy in mid, but Renegades know what's up here.
Barracuda uses his ultimate to get in. The Fire Giant's still falling low. It's starting to get reset from Sanguine.
Barracuda jumps around the corner, turns towards Jakor. Jakor with the thorns dissuades Barracuda from aggressing, and Paddy Tom was there too. Ring Toss does a ton of damage, and the Aegis bought some time, but not enough. Jakor transforms as a Waxing Moon hits, but the Waxing Moon's not going to do enough damage to shut them down at all. Venenu off the map. Solo Troll forced to leap away, but the Fire Giant denies him that option. Jakor does end up taking a bit more damage than bargained for. Solo Troll lives. Different story for Awesome Jake, and now the Fire Giant under threat again. Sanguine looking to secure this one. Lasbra's not there. And this is not working out well in Game 2 for Renegades at all. It started so well, the first 6 minutes, Smith, it was all Renegades. But then all out of nowhere, one fight in the jungle on a pick attempt on Shinto, and Renegades lose momentum, and looks like they could lose the game.
Now nearly 10,000 gold. 3 members still dead for Renegades. The game is under threat. There's still tier 2 towers to keep defended. If Renegades can maybe stop the push, if they just give up 1, it wouldn't be too big of a deal. If they lose 2, that's a huge gold deficit. If they lose their lives, that'll likely be the Phoenix and then possibly the Titan afterward. Renegades are playing incredibly precariously going forward. They have to find the dive on a Shinto. They can't allow him to free cast as he has been the entirety of the game. Only one death? No, someone has to stop this man.
I think the issue is, though, Miff, is like, how do they dive Shinto when you've got a Kukulkan, a massive Jing 10, and of course Naja, that are just going to hover around and protect him. Sanguine do a very good job of playing through Shinto and protecting him up to those moments. So yeah, like the goal is kill Shinto, but how do you get there, man? Like, look at the dive potential. It really is ults are the best thing they've got going for him. Anyway, we'll come back to that because left-hand side, Sanguine onto a Phoenix line here, really starting to pressure on further onto Renegades. All members of Renegades are here to defend, but now with minions turned up towards mid lane, Sanguine switch the pressure and do the right thing, take some more global gold.
That's fantastic. They might decide to back up here, spend out that gold. They could reset towards the gold 3, pick up the Oni, split up the map. That's all viable options for Sanguine going forward. With the lead and the point in the game that they are currently at, they have so much time to play with. They're building nearly a 10,000 gold lead now. If they could take another tier 2 tower and the gold 3, that could go up to 12, 13,000. 20 minutes in, that is crippling for Renegades. So if Sanguine decide to keep playing slow and not really push their advantage too much right now, they've got plenty of time to work with, and they'll likely get the next Fire Giant untested.
Barracuda all on his own, caught out here. The rest of his team were pushing up left-hand side. He was trying to join along with them, but his front line got too far away from the back line, and the rest of the members weren't in sight. So Barra getting picked there means it's a free pickup for Sanguine at that Fury, and it's going to keep him down for another 40 seconds where Renegades can't look to aggress. I kind of get the idea. Renegades trying to find a pick in the jungle, but they get caught with the pants down.
Barra playing up that far really indicates to me that he thinks maybe Sanguine's going to group up and go for the tier 2 tower on the right side of the map, so he wants to sneak away Gold Fury and respawn. Unfortunately, Sanguine wanted Gold Fury. You're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, Barracuda.
Well, meanwhile, Lasbra's in mid lane, but nobody is on Sanguine. They're all on the left-hand side. Paddy Tom taking a ton of pressure, though. Great work from Jake, but he's going to get exploded by that arcane damage out of Shinto. A killing spree for him again. When have we said that before? Now onto Solo Troll as he's arcane pulled back in again. And Netroid gets credit for the kill. Left down Phoenix falls at 21 minutes. Are you kidding me? Are Sanguine going to do this? No way. Are they going to do it in under 23 minutes? They took game 1 in 23. Can they do this in 22? Lasbra's still at mid lane Phoenix. Barracuda boxing out with Paddy Tom. Not a whole lot of pressure on the Titan just yet. But now Merlin's looking for a lot of pressure too. It looks like Sanguine may take this mid.
The burn is slow, the damage is coming through. Netroid finds Lasbra, the Titan, now at 1/10 health. Yep, that's the game.
Wow.
21 minutes. Yeah, that's a speed run right there. Sanguine just trying to beat their personal record of 23 minutes.
21-49 in that game. I thought game 1 was quicker than 23. I don't know where they really lost out there. It really felt that one pick again. Like, there was a fight in game 1 that was a Gold Fury fight that went badly and Renegades lose. Well, this was a dive attempt, a gank attempt on Shinto in the jungle that got away from them, and it just catapulted Sanguine into the lead.
Renegades just a little bit overzealous with their aggression around that tier 2 tower in mid. What was it, about 12 minutes into the game? Probably not the best place to choose your fights. Unfortunately for Renegades, Sanguine optimized on it perfectly, and the second they got a lead, they didn't let go of it.
Wild situation. I expected a bit more of a longer set today, especially with how game 1 went, well, set 1 of the day went, but not to be. Renegades going to go down 0-2 to Sanguine here. Let's get it back to Finch and Aggro to break it down.
That was polite, Myth, but I don't even think it was as late as 12 minutes where that Tier 1 tower dive happened, and that was where things went awry here this game for the Renegades. It's the Shinto boys that come out on top one more time. I was forgetting Sanguine, so I just called them who I think is the driving force of their victory, and it is often Shinto, but the whole squad playing well here.
Yeah, it's the Shinto boys, dude. I mean, this dude's just an animal in the mid lane. After trying to kill him and win the game that way, it's just not going to happen for you. I don't know. I understand Renegade's thought process. We did so many things well in game number 1. We made one mistake and the game ended. So let's just do the same thing but not make that mistake. But I don't know. It just felt like Sanguine was so prepared now for exactly what this 3v3 in mid was going to do, exactly how much damage and how much damage they were going to do and needed to take in order to die, that it completely lost all of that new, Chang'e mid, this is a different look. We don't know exactly what it's going to do for us. And they just played around it perfectly this time around. And I think that that's always the big question when you come out and you come out with something unique and it doesn't work, but it was working for a little bit. Do you reprise it and hope that the enemy team takes an extra game to really get used to what that pick looks like and how to play against it? Or do you have to just accept that you missed your window, and you missed the bus and you got to start walking. Don't try and chase us down. And I felt like Renegades chased the bus and got ran over. I don't know if that tracks, but I think it does.
Yeah, I'm there with you. CMF, it was much earlier in the game than you thought. 12 might not have been so crazy, but 7 is a little bit too early. That was the first fight. This was the second fight, Aggro, for me. That was the backbreaker. It's this fight over in lane where they get that pick early on. Then when the rotation comes in, Sanguine are still able to trade evenly. Rongyu gets that throw back under the Tier 1 tower, and they find a kill there. It's just a little bit too much, man. Sanguine are winning the scrappy fights. That's what I wrote down in my notes for this game. Those close ones, the toss-ups, they always seem to fall Sanguine's way, and I legitimately think they've just been there before. You might not have had a game that's gone this way yet, but these Sanguine boys have, and they played it together, another advantage that not everyone else has had. They've had so much exposure this game, they're so comfortable, and they're able to handle it when stuff goes awry.
And that's why trying to throw a wrench at what they're used to, I don't know if that's your best course of action. You're not going to catch these guys off guard that often. Certainly not twice in a row. I think that It's just kind of a fatal mistake there by Renegades to try and trick them with the same sort of weird 3v3 comp in mid 2 times in a row. You had your opportunity. It didn't go your way. Sucks, but let's move on to the next draft and not just try and play the exact same thing over again, because Sanguine just punishes you too hard for doing that.
I needed to wash their hands of it because it did not work that second time around. Didn't work the first time around either, if we're being honest. But the winners of this one are Sanguine. Congrats to them. That's why Rongyu standing by with Hinduman for the interview.
Oh, yeah, he is indeed. Rongyu, great to meet you, first of all. It's been not even a chance to see each other because of the pandemic stuff. How do you guys think you've been doing? Like, realistically, did you expect to be doing this well in the Pro League when you guys got in here?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't expect, like, a good start, to be honest, but since we're skiing every day, we're grinding, we have fixed our sleep schedule, I think we have grown as a team fast.
Yeah, honestly, it looks like you guys have been growing consistently. I do want to mention, like, we've been try-harding and, like, working hard. Every time I see you guys in the SPL or on stream, in an arena game, in an assault game, it doesn't matter where, I always feel like you guys are going hard all the time. Is that just a mindset you guys have as a team? To just, like, play to win entirely all the time?
Yeah, our manager playing always says that we have to play our best game 100%. You know, like even though you're playing arena ranked, you have to show that why you are here. You don't have to lose any time because you can improve in any ranked game or any casual. You know.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It's a very interesting take as well, just to ask you about that. Talking about the game a little bit more, though, how do you feel it went against Renegades here? Because both game 1 and 2, you guys kind of struggled a little bit in that laning phase.
Yes, we knew that the best part of Renegades it's the dual lane. Awesome Jake and Barracuda are pretty good players, so we knew that they were playing around them, and we told to Paneram, yo, you have to do this pattern, so we counter a little bit during bait or something, and that's what we did, like fix our early game mistakes that we have.
Yeah, it still looks like you struggled now and again in the early game, but you know, you made up for it when it got to 5 minutes later, is what it felt like to me. I do want to ask you real quick, what is the goal for you and the Sanguine boys this year? Like, what's the goal at the midpoint? Are you aiming for a certain point in the table? Are you aiming to win the entire phase 1? What's your focus?
I think the focus right now is make wars and make quarters, like not stay in quarters or just get stomped, because we don't like that anymore. So we want to win and we want to move on.
Well, trust me, I've seen you in the quarters a few times, so maybe you can advance further. Congratulations on your performance today, Rongyu, though. Good luck in the rest of the season. Let's get it back to Finch to close out the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hindu. And I love Rongyu speaking to some of his history there. This is not a squad that just showed up randomly in the SPL. They have been doing this for a long time and at a high level, and I'm glad these guys are finally starting to get some of the respect and such that they deserve. But let's talk a little bit more about what stuff we've already had up until this point coming along here to get to where we are right now. We had that set back at the start of the day, aggro. That was just crazy, I think, to get to this point. Obey able to find that win over E United, starting to maybe prove that they're on the come up at this point here. Obey, and they're not someone to overlook. Then Sanguine getting their 2-0 up against Renegades. And then later on in the week, we'll get to see Ghost playing under the new tag that is old rival, as you might have known them, PBM with the boys up against Knights. And then we'll get another chance at Obey. They have a doubleheader on Sunday to see if they can keep up their winning ways.
Yeah, now when you look at the league, I think that E United's game against Sanguine is going to be really critical for them. I mean, they lose to Obey. I think getting 2-0'd in both sets on a doubleheader would be really tough for them. And with how good Sanguine looked today, I think that E United certainly has a long way to go to look competitive up against Sanguine come Sunday. I'm excited to see what PK can do. They've been red hot as of late, but so is Ghost Gaming. So we'll see which team's able to keep their winning ways going.
Wow, 3 teams with 7 wins right now. Incredible. Now, of course, Sanguine's played one more game, so they've had one more opportunity, but the parity at this point largely unrivaled. And I guess the SPL, in a way, unrivaled at this point. They're Ghost now. I don't know. That's enough awful jokes here at this point, Ryan. I feel like I should do myself and everybody else a favor by trying to get us out of here. I appreciate everybody in production, the ones that make the show happen. Thank you all for watching. And for all my other casters out there, we absolutely appreciate it. That's going to be it. Make sure you tune back in tomorrow for SCC into SPL.